Uncanny Spider-Man. Issue number 2, Cy Spurrier writing, Lee Garbett on art, Matt Miller on colors, VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. And again, I had to have you guide me into some things last issue to get going. There's still a little bit going on. I mean, obviously, reading a book that's one of the X books, not reading any X books, it's kind of a weird play. But I didn't feel lost at all. I ended up, knowing some of the background that they're dealing with Mystique and Kurt, things like that. But what I really do love is the idea that all the ladies love Kurt. They can't keep their hands and lips off of him.
LL Cool K. It's ladies love Cool Kurt.
I love it. I love the deal. But you give us a start here as you start off with Mystique again, which I thought we were going to get bigger things from this.
Yeah, that's the part that, as like an X-reader, that's what kind of disappointed me about this issue was we got these kind of big things dropped on us in issue number 1, and none of them really get pulled forward as much as I wanted to this issue.
No, because you start off and you do have Mystique flipping out. I mean, she's going to cut Kurt. She has the knife out. She's ready to go.
So she's been running around looking like, because she can change and look like anybody. That's her whole deal. So she's been looking like she's kind of out of her mind. She's all disoriented. She's looking like a homeless person. She's looking like a different homeless person. She starts to get violent. And that's when Kurt, at the end of last issue, saw her and she transformed back to looking like his mom, Mystique. So you'd think you're going to get some big information dropped on you here. But she just keeps talking about, my baby, what did you do to my baby? And he is her baby. But he doesn't unmask. He doesn't tell her who she is because he's still dressed up as, the new Spider-Man with a tail and funny shaped hands and feet. I was really surprised. There doesn't seem to be anyone around. Why doesn't he speak up and say, hey, Mom, it's me?
It's weird. And I thought he would even later. I mean, he does get unmasked by Silver Sable, but still he ends up where maybe just pull it up a little, show a little blue. Like she starts yelling, the whole thing, like, where's my baby? You're not blue. Oh, my God. And she's getting all upset. And he doesn't really do much to stop that. He starts trying to talk to her, but it's obvious she's not listening. She's, in outrage. She's not right. She's going. And really, he doesn't do much to stop that. And then she runs off. She runs into a tunnel and gone.
This is, again, all leading up to that one shot coming out at the end of November. It's the one called X-Men Blue Origins. It's coming out between issues 4 and 5 of this story, also written by Cy Spurrier. So I figure it's basically an issue of this series, more or less. But because it's supposed to be this big revealing Kurt's real, for now, origin, they want it to be its own number 1.
And I get, Cy Spurrier setting that up. He's going with this. But like you said, being an X-reader and an X-fan, you're kind of disappointed. And I actually, again, I'm not reading those other books. I was disappointed because it was something that was set up. And I thought, okay, let's see where this goes. I thought we were going to get maybe a little more Mystique in the book, or at least her a little better and try to figure out. But she just runs away.
And he lets her go.
It's like, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't seem that
I guess he doesn't
at that point.
There's no connection with him right now with any other X-Men. So it's not like he can take her back to the island or to the mansion or any of these places. But still, you'd think he wouldn't let his mom just wander off deluded through the streets of New York City. Not a good thing.
It kind of just gets shoved aside. It just kind of goes. But I do like this little cherub who is talking to him and really talking a lot of crap, like throwing a lot of shade at Kurt, and Kurt ends up arguing with it.
It's clearly representing, I'm sure we've all had it, where you're going through a rough period and there's like a voice in your head. Not like you're hearing voices, but like that part of your own self that tells yourself that you're no good, you'll never succeed, you're no good at this. And that's what this little, I'm calling him a Bamf, this little Bamf character represents. Here it's not drawn so much like it's in the same panel. He's always in his own bubble, like he's a thought bubble. So I don't know if it's less, again, leading us not to think that he's so real, more like he's a figment of Kurt's imagination.
And it is funny, like as they go through, you do get that idea. But again, you had Mystique, she runs off. And then it's like you just turn, I'm like, is this what this issue or series is going to be, as one guest star after another? Because then you get Dagger out of nowhere. And again, because I'm not reading the things, but when you get Tandy show up and right away, me and Cloak, we're having some problems, but ties into play with the Sentinels and things, how she's even being X-adjacent.
Right,
herself.
Because their history is complicated. They've been thought to be mutants back and forth kind of through their history. And because they got their powers from like a drug, but at some points they've said, oh, no, the drug just brought out your own inherent mutant abilities. But then like 2010 or so, I think Marvel pretty much put that to bed, said, no, it's just you're a mutate. You got your powers like Spider-Man from a thing. But it is kind of interesting that she's close enough to being a mutant that she gets false positives from all the Sentinels running around.
And again, I like the setup, but I'm thinking, like, you just pop in and then pop out here. Is this really what we really need, or is it setting up something? Because she says if Cloak ends up getting a false positive, he's going to go ballistic.
Well, what's being set up here, I think, is that she says Cloak is missing. So this is going to be something for Kurt to do in the next couple issues.
Which would be kind of cool if that's the setup and really trying to get to him. Because, again, the stakes might be a little higher that if he ends up just walking around New York, you end up one of the Sentinels, gets a false positive, he is going to attack.
Now, Jim, in the Marvel New York City, isn't it still against the law to be wearing superhero costumes in public?
Full out.
But she's there, this bright white disco thing, riding her little Razor scooter that was hip like 10 years ago.
I like that, where she even says, like, yeah, I usually get around different ways, but I think I'll go on my scooter. But I guess if she got called out on it, she'd say, well, I just have this eye. It's not really. But Kurt himself, legitimately, it's funny. You say he doesn't reveal himself to Mystique.
As soon as Dagger shows up, because he doesn't want to make out with his mom. Any cute girl shows up, and Kurt's like, hey, baby, how you doing?
He just reveals himself. And then I was thinking, beyond that, the idea that you just have a mask will get you in trouble with other people. So he's got all this stuff going. But once you end up having, sexy Tandy show up, the mask right off. Hey, baby, let's that. And all that going on. But he is then pretty much says, okay, thanks for that information about Cloak. Maybe that will end up doing something later. But man, I'm just sitting here doing, oh God, Rhino just comes flying through and smashes everything.
Yeah, that was a fun enough little page turn to a nice splash of Rhino wearing like medieval armor with some stuff on his head that clearly shows he's being controlled by Orcus. Even a big old glowing Orcus logo on his chest. You'd think Orcus would want to be a little more on the down low about sending Rhino rampaging through the city.
And maybe tell him don't yell things, too, because he yells express train coming through. I needed him to go choo-choo as he's going, but he ends up just demolishing the deal, and it sends Kurt flying. But there, and we end up seeing Silver Sable's group, her guys, with Orcus, trying to bring in Kurt at this moment. And they have this plan set up. At first, I was a little confused of exactly what was going on.
All those different colors are her team members. So Orcus has a group with Vulture running part of it, right? And that's called the Hound program. So, and his big thing, he really wants to catch Kurt, or this new Spider-Man. He doesn't know that it's Kurt, probably. But, Vulture, Spider-Man, he wants to get him. So his group isn't doing so well on its own, so he recruits and calls in Silver Sable and her team, which may or may not still be called the Wild Pack, and all her team members are, color-coded like Power Rangers, so that's handy.
Mm-hmm. And that was set up last issue, and we were wondering what that was going to lead to, especially with, Vulture, and he was getting, big in his britches.
But we don't see Vulture this issue either. That's another thing I was looking forward to, because he's kind of fun to see in an X book. And
we were laughing at him last issue. We thought he was hilarious.
Yeah, we did. And he's mentioned kind of in a data page, but they black out his name. Like, we don't know who the Vulture is. I don't know why they black him out. I don't get it.
Very odd. But they have a plan. It's actually a pretty good plan. I mean, they end up getting Kurt. They get him in this area. They end up getting a dome around him. He can't teleport out. Then they end up hitting him with a snare that looks like it's straight out
first
of
some
like
tranquilizer
Doc
darts. Yep, tranquilizer darts. Yeah, definitely. I have in my notes a Doc Ock arm just winding around
like
him.
A Doc Ock, right? So you end up. I guess you do see one of the darts kind of hitting. Actually, when you get to a point, I thought he dodged them all. Because they even say, man, he's pretty crazy with that dodging, but they do mention then.
Yeah, he gets one on the shoulder.
So all this is going on, and you end up where Silver Sable at HQ realizes that they are involved with stuff that maybe they shouldn't be, and they're not getting paid enough.
They're not really so coordinated with Orcus, because the Orcus guy here, who's some new scientist dude, I don't think he really matters too much. He's works under Vulture. And he thinks that, we're going right to get Kurt right now. This is it. This is how we're going to capture him. She says, no, this is just, we want some information. We want to test things out, first contact. But is it really that her microphone is muted and that's why she can't get the message to her guys? Hey, just back off?
I guess he just cut the mic because she's talking to it and then she says we want another 0 because she does end up seeing Rhino with the mind control gem that actually was very reminiscent of the one that you had Kurt have when he went nuts. So she starts like, oh, this is bullcrap. Like, I want more zeros. Adds another one. But it is weird when she ends up saying, stop, we only want info. And then, oh, sorry, your mic's muted. I'm like, all right, then I guess it works, but it's just so her team.
You'd think that if this was the plan the whole time, she would have told her team, that plan going forward. She wouldn't need to say, at the moment in the field, back off.
Yeah, like they would have started questioning the idea, well, this wasn't the plan, like what's going on, but they seem gung-ho, but it does end up where she then immediately goes into the fray and ends up trying to not, she, at one point I think maybe she's afraid they're going to kill, but she says the plan isn't to kill him.
I think once it was, they had already gone too far, there was no backing down. Well, she wanted to be there to make sure they actually captured him, and then she didn't know about the Hope Sword. That was the part that surprised them. They knew about the teleporting, knew about the acrobatic kind of thing, but him being able to pull that sword out of his chest and cut himself loose from the Doc Ock arm, that's what kind of threw them off.
And while that's going on, then she ends up hitting him in the back, grabbing his tail, and then has him there.
Her hands are all over his tail this whole issue in a really kind of uncomfortable, I need a grown-up kind of way.
Yeah, and then the Orcus guy, it's almost like it's supposed to be the tables have turned because now he loses all contact with everybody in the field. So he doesn't know what's going on either. And then it looks as if Kurt gets smart, even though he says, I really didn't think it through, but it makes sense. He teleports down. The whole dome is around him. He can't teleport out somewhere, but he goes down into the subway. And it's like this dark panel where they're talking about things. It gets a little bit over the top with some of the dialogue. It fits enough, but it did get a little
moved really quickly from I'm trying to catch you to, hey, Kurt, let's make out. I'm gonna stroke your tail up and down, and we're gonna just, well, now I fell on you. And now we're in one of those mangas where I fell and I accidentally fell on your lips, and it's still got a good grip on that tail the whole time.
And here's the crazy deal. She again, because he had his mask on, and she unmasks him, sees him. Then when they go down the subway, she says, listen, my helmet, because she's wearing a full gear on. She says, my helmet has a light, but I can't do anything. And Kurt realizes you have my tail and you have a gun. So it's to get the light, but that gets the helmet off so they can make out. And that's what they do. And it just, the light goes on and they just start smooching. And I'm like, what is going on? But it is funny. Again, that's what I'm here for. I love the idea that he's the lady's love. He ends up with all that, but she ends up coming to her senses and blames Kurt, thinks it's some of another ability, which, okay, it plays out actually okay because she says she didn't know about the sword. Maybe she doesn't know about the...
Yeah, is that a Hope Sword in your pocket or what?
Exactly. It's crazy, but she ends up and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do at this point, and they end up kind of sensing and hearing and getting this deal that Rhino's heading their way, and it's kind of funny.
I didn't see anything particular happen to him, but his control thing from Orcus went on the fritz, and so he's really agitated now, like it's irritating him, and he just wants it to go away, but he's just super aggressive and still going after him, so he like burrows down into the ground, and the fight's still on.
And I was hoping at this point that what was actually going on with Kurt, he was like leaking brass monkey all over. Everybody was getting horned up around him, including possibly Rhino. He's already horny, right? I thought he comes in, starts making out. Now, in that earlier, you did end up having Silver Sable realize this thing with Rhino because Kurt was desperately trying to get that helmet off of Rhino. He's trying to pull out
so
that
maybe
gem.
Kurt damaged it a little bit. Maybe that's why it's on the fritz.
And it is that weird play, like he is upset and he's going towards the side, like all that going on just to get down there. But I do like when they're making out, they get done and Kurt's like, there's no possible way Rhino could get to us. I mean, I ended up teleporting, but oh no. And the wall just breaks up and like the Kool-Aid man. He comes running out. It would have been great.
Dug. That's what I'm thinking of, that whole video game.
Yeah, it is that too. Oh my goodness. But yeah, he comes in and, what are they going to do? Well, you end up having Kurt. at this point, Silver Sable's ready to drop everything and just start a new life with Kurt.
They're going to run off to South America together and have little light blue babies.
Yep. And he's like, I can only manage to teleport 2 people away. And she's like, oh, where are you going to take me? Oh, not you. Grabs Rhino and teleports out, bamfs out to the skyline of New York. And as they're falling, you even then get, and I like the setup earlier and even in the first issue where we know that it's that little bamf there where he's talking, even though we're not close in, still talking crap.
Gets his own style color of speech bubble. So yeah, it's clear what's going on.
And just yelling. I wonder, they're going to see this new ability of you squishing on the ground. This is crazy. Now, I thought you were playing the full play of this, just being that he was going to break the fall with Rhino. I'm thinking, he's going to die. And Rhino's he does end up teleporting out.
And this is a trick that Cy Spurrier's done with Kurt a few times, because he's done multiple miniseries now, or maxi-series even, with Kurt. And he likes having him do the thing where he picks somebody up and teleports him up into the sky and kind of has a talk to him and kind of says, hey, you kind of got to do what I say, otherwise you're going to splat. And this time he's trying to just, get the thing off, the Orca stuff off Rhino. But, he's Rhino, so he's not going to die when he crashes. So Rhino just, kills the Orcus van as Orca scientist guy just runs out. But that Kurt teleports away quick enough to survive himself.
And then you end up where down below Silver Sable's there. And
yeah, she looks like she's, just been, her boyfriend just left. She's sitting by the phone waiting for a call.
It is kind of funny. I mean, there are humorous moments.
I shaved my legs for this,
Oh, look at her. She's all upset. Well, it's me. But I do like the continuation of the deal of, okay, now you end up knowing a little more of what's going on. But in the meantime, you throw in, like you said, that thing about Cloak. You end up now, Silver Sable has like even more personal reason because she seems to like Kurt. You're like building things up as you go. I do think there's bigger and better things that we have to kind of nail down before the end of this. But it actually is pretty fun each issue. I'm actually having a better time reading this than I thought I would. What would you give it?
Like I say, I'm a little disappointed at the stuff we didn't get. We didn't get anything really about Mystique or about, I don't really know where the Bamfs are coming from. I want to have a little more clarity on that. I'm disappointed we didn't get to see the Vulture. We got Dagger show up, but I only just to kind of set something up for the future. I'm having fun talking to you about it. My score is rising as we discuss it. I think I can come up to a 6.8 out of 10.
I think I gave you the breast monkey, maybe. I'm gonna go.
That's on the Patreon podcast.
I'm gonna go 7, and I think that what we're seeing here is without a connection of these big things that I like. You really want to know because these are big things going with the Fall of X stuff and all that. Without having that, I'm here for a little bit of fun. I'm here for a little bit of Kurt. I actually got it. And I'm telling you, at the end, you do end like a cartoon when you have Silver Sable there. And she's like, this may be more challenging job than we thought you had.
You can see the Looney Tunes circles come in on her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that's
again,
all,
a lot of times that would drive me nuts. But I'm kind of just here for that here. I'm not that invested in the X stuff. So here I just want to have fun. And it shows you that while you're not getting everything that you want to kind of get that side of things, it's still enjoyable. And I'm having enough fun that I'm not angry that I read it. I had a bit of fun with I like Kurt just going around and everybody wants to smooch with him is what I want to keep seeing. So we'll see.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.